I found another way. So I wanted to share with you this morning, what is Zen Mind? What does that mean? And so I'm going to give you a little background on that before we get into translating it into our science of mind language. So first, I want to say something about Shunryo Suzuki Roshi, who was kind of the founder in a way, not the founder, but certainly one of the main Zen teachers in the United States in the 20th century. He arrived in San Francisco in 1959, and he took over the only Soto Zen temple in the United States at that time, which was in San Francisco. Now, I know that there were Soto Zen missions here in Hawaii. As a matter of fact, Daifukuji is part of that group. In some ways, they're a little more melding traditional Japanese Buddhism and Zen, but the pure Zen tradition was what Suzuki Roshi brought with him and took over when he took over the Zen temple in San Francisco. And this book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which is a fabulous book, is a compilation of his talks, both in private and also his Dharma talks, which he would give in public. And they were recorded, and one of his primary, I guess you could call her a disciple, one of his primary people who followed him recorded all of this and then wrote it down and made this book. So I highly recommend it because the words come from Suzuki Roshi himself directly. So Zen Mind is a really interesting phrase. It's also beginner's mind. That's the same thing. Now, have you ever experienced beginner's luck? Yeah, you know what that's like. It's like the first time you do it, holy moly, you win the game or you're really good at it. And it's amazing to you. That's beginner's mind. Beginner's mind doesn't have preconceptions like I can't, or I'm no good at this, or whatever beliefs, limiting beliefs or ideology we might bring to a subject or to a situation or to an object or to a relationship. Beginner's mind doesn't do that. It's curious. It's open. It's like a child. It's childlike, not childish, but childlike. And if you've ever been around a toddler, and because I have lived intimately with a toddler for the last few years, he's now 5, and he's starting to instruct me in how to do things. But before that, going on a walk with him was fabulous. Everything that he found was potentially either a friend, a weapon. He's a little boy. Sword fighting was foremost. Where did he get that? I don't know. It's like boys come with this, built in. But anyway, everything was brand new and wonderful. And I've known people that have that capacity as well. They bring a freshness. They bring a way of being with you that isn't filled with preconceived notions. So here's a wonderful quote from Suzuki Roshi on what is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. The practice of Zen Mind is beginner's mind. So when you're doing your Zen meditation, you're getting into beginner's mind. And what is that? He goes on. The innocence of the first inquiry. So it's like you're seeing it for the first time. You're experiencing it for the first time. That's what beginner's mind is. The innocence of the first inquiry. And he even tells us, what is our first inquiry? What am I? What am I? Not who am I? What am I? And as I heard that, you know, the image that came to my mind was the way a little baby will grab his toes and just kind of everything that they're grabbing, they're kind of going, what am I? What is this? What's going on? You know, that's kind of the ultimate beginner's mind state. So this practice of the innocence of first inquiry is the Zen practice. The mind of the beginner is empty, free of the habits of the expert, ready to accept, ready to doubt, and open to all the possibilities. It is the kind of mind which can see things as they are. And I've got to tell you, that's rare in our day-to-day life. By the time we're adults, we've got a whole set of beliefs that come between us and the innocence of first inquiry. So imagine that you're open to it being anything, all possibilities. That's the kind of mind which sees things as they are and which, step by step, and at the same time, in a flash, can realize the original nature of everything. I love that quote. And so to put this in our science of mind terms, I want to take you on a little trip first, because there's something we have in science of mind that wasn't there when I first learned the teachings in the 1980s. It didn't arrive until the 90s. And it was a concept that was created by Reverend Lloyd Strom and Reverend Marcia Sutton. They are no longer with us. They have passed away now, but they have passed on these brilliant teachings called the Four Kingdoms. And you will hear me reference the Four Kingdoms many times because it explains so much. And what that is, the Four Kingdoms, they're four generalized states of consciousness that we grow through. So the most common state is the first state. And it's the state that is kind of a victim, not kind of, it's actually victimhood itself. But you know, that's the first state for a lot of us. Just think of a teenager. Victimhood is really pronounced. And it's, why are you doing this to me? You know, and some of us take a long time to grow out of that. We feel resentment. Why is this happening to me? You know, that is the first state of consciousness. The entire universe is this great big thing outside of me. I'm completely separate and alone, and it's happening to me. Now, don't feel bad if you also recognize yourself in that statement, because we've all got a piece of this. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We build on each layer, but the bottom layer is still there. So we can all get into victimhood in a hot. So don't feel bad if that's going on. If that happens, like if you have an accident or something, someone hurts your feelings, it's easy to fall there again. That's okay. Second state of consciousness. And this is something we often get in science of mind. And I want to share with you that this is a step that science of mind does incredibly well. It's the by me step. It's the next step up for victimhood, where we begin to recognize that our word can affect our experience, our choices. Our mind has the ability to choose and reorient our outer experience. That is science of mind treatment and a lot of our tools in a nutshell. And when I first got into science of mind in 1981, that was the only stage we practiced. And it was a powerful stage. It really teaches you how to take responsibility for your life, how to become fully accountable for what's going on in your life, how to get out of the blaming and shaming and all that stuff that goes along with victimhood consciousness and keeps us locked there. So we come up into by me. Oh, I got choice. I can do this. But you know what? We're still separate. They're still a part of us. That it's God out there, or it's the magic or the science, whatever you want to call it, of using the tools that makes this work. We haven't quite gotten yet that we are one with that, that there is no separation between us and that power. We're using the power. We're using an outside power. And we may even get glimpses that we can use it inside. But that is still a solid second stage of consciousness called by me. And this is where we take responsibility and we come into choice. And then something happens to us. Then something happens to us. I don't know about you, but you can be in the middle of a meditation and everything comes into alignment inside of you, and you get the Satori experience, the experience that they talk about in Zen, of when you know your oneness with that source. There's no separation for a minute there, a moment. And it's mind-blowing. I'm getting the chicken skin all over just talking about it. It's an incredible moment. And we're kind of struck. And then when we do treatments, we begin to get that it's this flow of energy through us. It's this presence moving through us that we're actually one with. And for a while, there's an incredible high that happens to us. It's called a pink cloud. There's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful. But I've got to tell you, it can lead to some very unfortunate states. Necessary states, not unfortunate. They're incredibly fortunate states, but they're not comfortable. And that's where our little ego, who's been running the show up until now, starts to go, wait a minute. You need me. What happens if? And what about that? And so every reservation we've got about life, every resentment, every fear can come rip-roaring up for us now to face, to deal with. And guess what? This is the gateway to the third stage of consciousness, the third kingdom. And the gateway is surrender. Sometimes what happens to us is no matter how adept we are at using the tools, a disaster lands on our porch and we can't seem to move it. Could be a cancer diagnosis, could be a loved one very close to us and dear to us. Hey, it can be your beloved pet that you've had for 20 years passes away. A relationship, a divorce, a terrible custody battle, a child with drug addiction. There are so many things that can happen that assist us to move into the third stage, where we begin to recognize, not my will, thy will. This is not counter to science of mind. This is what I love about Lloyd Strom and Marcia Sutton. They provided a pathway saying, no, it doesn't end there. I've got to tell you, when that happened to me, it was a divorce and a terrible custody battle, an international custody battle. And I left Science of Mind for 2 years because I was so angry that all my tools, all my realization, all my blah, 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 I was a practitioner, I was blah, didn't work. I had to surrender to what is. How many of you have left a spiritual path when you got there and gotten pissed off, angry at God? Yeah. Guess what? Hallelujah, I bow to you, because that's the stage in moving into third stage consciousness. We're now getting ready to mature. We're now getting ready to allow that divine presence to source us like it has never sourced us before. It's that moment when you recognize it's within me. It's the bigger part of me. It's what I really am. And this ego, this personality, these limited beliefs, so what? They're not the big deal anymore. It's not that they just completely go away. It's like that victim consciousness. It's still there. But you know what? It's not running the show anymore. Now we know, because we've been to whatever our bottom was at that moment, wherever our deep place, that nadir point, we recognize when we really bow and ask for help that it arrives. And it arrives in a way we never could have foreseen. And you know, a lot of people in 12-step programs, that's what happens to them. And they come in and they begin to let go and become sober, and they have their whole journey. And it's about thy will. And what is the divine will? What is the divine will? Well, guess what? That's living in the mystery. That's our mystery. This entire universe has been created by this infinite divine presence that is our own self. It is the awareness that sees through your eyes. It is what you hear. It's how you think. It's what's running your body. It's moving the stars. It's making the waves. This entire universe is run by this presence. Begin to experience ourselves as that source, and we open to the mystery now with love and joy and some trepidation when we hit the rapids. But you know what? At this point, it's not our first rodeo, so to speak. We've ridden that bull before, and now we know. Surrender early. Get into the mystery right now. Let go. Stop projecting all that fear, all that ideation, all those beliefs. We open to that part of ourselves and we go, whoa, I get it. Thank you. Come here. Come here. I got you. That's what we say to ourselves. I got you. We're okay. And not only have I got you, but that infinite divine source has us. Always. Always. So that's why as we step into living into the mystery, we can love it. Because it's greater love than we have ever known. And it's greater joy than we have ever known. It's like becoming a little kid again. Because guess one of the things that we discover when we get into the mystery? We don't know nothing. And honestly, sometimes that happens after a spiritual just a huge realization happens for us, a huge enlightenment experience. I hope none of us have one. I like gradual enlightenment. The road to Damascus is a very painful way to go. Having that instant download, because guess what? From that moment forward, your old life is over, and you know it, and you realize that everything you built your life on and believed is bunk. Now what? That's also a gradual experience for a lot of us. We begin to doubt what we used to know. Hallelujah. I don't want to believe my judgments and opinions anymore. They're not very pretty. They're actually kind of miserable. I don't like living in that place inside myself. So this opens us up to living in the mystery with joy and genius. Pure genius comes out of this place. This is where genius comes from. Even Einstein himself talked about that childlike state of wonder and not presupposing you know what something is. He could never have discovered relativity if he was stuck on certain 3D experiences in gravity and on this planet. Oh, heck no. He was out there and his mind was able to conceive without preconceived notion. They say he did not speak the first 3 years of his life, and they say when he was in grade school, he darn near flunked. You know why? They would find him lying out in the bushes in the schoolyard. I can see it now. What a mystic. What a dreamer. There he is. You know, the whole universe, like, oh, pretty good. Pretty good. So one of my favorite, I don't know if I want to call him a mystic, but somebody I believe who lived in Zen Mind, beginner's mind, was Harpo Marx. I don't know if any of you have ever watched the Marx Brothers. They were old reruns on TV when I was a kid. And quite frankly, I could never get into the silly stories they came up with. And most of their other guys, like Groucho, was just too grouchy for me. So, but I loved Harpo. I loved him. He was hilarious. Why? Because he had Zen mind. He didn't take anything as being pompous, or, you know, that hierarchy we have where things are this and sacred and that's what this. No, 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 no. Everything is available for him to honk his horn at. Well, as I was preparing for this talk this week, I ran across some wonderful quotes on Harpo Marx and his kids. See, he was over 50 when he had his kids. So he didn't have to worry about creating a livelihood or supporting them. His kids, and I think he had 5 or 6 of them, he had a lot of kids, talked about what an amazing dad he was and who he was. So one of the things that he would say to them was, have fun first. Let yourself have fun first. And if you think you know what something is, ask yourself, is that really true? Do I really know this? Bless you, by the way. So I want to give you a quote on him, and I'm trying to find it. Oh, here it is. This is his son, Bill Marx. My dad was the most childlike adult I've ever known. Not childish, which is an unattractive quality that suggests certain selfish insensitivity. That wasn't my dad at all. No, he took the world in the way a child does, with lots of wonder and very little judgment. With the delight of someone for whom everything is new and delightful. The great comedy parodist of song, Alan Sherman. My dad had a couple of his records and I just heard some of them in my mind. Wrote in his autobiography, The Gift of Laughter, that Harpo Marx had the good sense to never grow up. And so I'm going to invite you now to do a little ritual with me. It's not really a ritual. I think we need to rename these things. I think we should call them embodiment exercises, because I'm going to give you a chance to experience what we just talked about. So here's how we're going to do it. I have a basket, actually total bowl, full of objects. A lot of these objects you may know well. Some of them are going to completely baffle you. But it doesn't matter which it is. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, and then you're going to pick one. Close your eyes. Put your hand in the bowl. Just hold that, don't look at it. You're going to keep your eyes closed. Here's the bowl. And as you're holding it with your eyes closed, just start to ask yourself, watch and see what your mind wants to create out of that. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Grab something. Hold that and allow your imagination to come up with something. those eyes closed. Keep thinking about it. And now open your eyes when you're ready and see what it is. And use all your senses in wonder, like you've never seen anything like this before. You can smell it. You can see if it makes a noise, what sound, like you were a little kid, like you don't know what this is. What does this sound like? What is this? And then just notice how much more you got to experience this through an open inquiry. And now we're going to move into the next part of our ritual. So this was to get us tenderized, ready. All right. Yes.
I missed what number 4 was.
Number 4? I didn't go into number 4. You didn't miss it.
Okay.
But I will tell you what number 4 is. Number 4 is Christ mind, Buddha mind. It's the highest state of consciousness that a human can acquire, where we are one with the one, and we know our oneness, and we're consciously aware of it. And so in that state, it's called as me. Spirit moves through the world as me. Now, all 4 states are our truth at all times. We're only able to be consciously aware of these states when we're ready for them. So you can have experiences of complete oneness where you experience yourself as the universe individualized, but they're rare. They're momentary. We can live in 3rd state consciousness where we are surrendered and then cross the threshold into the 4th state, back and forth. So I believe all of us are moving into 3rd state. We are grounding 3rd state, and we are becoming acclimatized to living in this place where our identity shifts from the limited sense of who we are into the expanded, I won't call it fully oneness yet, but it's the state that Rumi talked about, where you're in love with the friend, where you're in love with the divine presence. And there's this beautiful, sweet interaction that is happening. And so now we're going to do another little exercise that's going to assist us in living and moving into the mystery. And I'm taking a little extra time here. And I'm going to ask you to soften your focus or close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And I'm going to take back my objects in a little bit. And in this state, I want you just to become aware of your breath. And bring to mind a situation in your life right now that you could call a challenge. We've all got them. Doesn't have to be big. And as you bring to mind that challenge, you will notice right with it come a lot of your beliefs and your ideas and your fears that you're fixated on about that challenge. And I'm going to invite you to see if you can let go of them. Here's one of the ways I let go when I can't let go. Inside, I create a wide angle focus. It's like I'm expanding my vision. So yes, I see my belief about it, my idea about it, my judgment of it, And now I'm going to allow that I don't know everything. There's a vast field beyond what I think I know about this. And I'm willing for my thoughts and my judgment to sit with the field of all possibilities. So see if you could just expand out in that field of all possibilities around that situation. And now imagine, make up a story where everybody wins in this situation, in this challenge, where you win, where everybody wins. There is a possibility in this vast universe of all possibilities that includes the story of how everybody wins here, how each situation is resolved beautifully and perfectly, and this challenge too. And now notice that this situation can be your catalyst. It can be the resource that allows you to step into this expanded possibilities. Nothing in form stays that way for long. It's always moving. It's always flexible. And so we open to the all possibility. And now I invite you to call in and recognize divine order in this challenge, in this situation. Now that you've broken free a little bit, know that that infinite source that holds the planets in gravity, that has created all the forces in the universe, is absolutely in charge of this situation too. There is no big or small to that infinite source. And so call in that divine right order. It has so ordered the cosmos that everything happens in divine order. And allow this infinite presence and source to be the manager, the doer, the initiator of the good in this situation. Some call that a miracle, of course. And as we know, miracles are ordinary. They're everyday. They happen all the time. So call in that divine source, that miracle maker, that infinite presence of the all good, whatever name you give it, Mother, Father, God. And then let go of it. I want you to imagine it melting away into that source. It's taken care of. It is done. It is complete. Every time it comes back for you to think about, imagine yourself letting it go into that divine source. God is your source and you are safe. Don't worry about the outcome or try to call in a specific outcome. Allow that infinite source to take this and move it to its next highest place.